Marcus adjusted his bow tie for the third time, his hand lingering on the silk, as if it could steady the nerves twisting in his stomach. The annual Global Impact Gala glittered around him like a dream, crystal chandeliers casting warm light over diplomats, entrepreneurs, and philanthropists in New York's grandest ballroom. Beside him, his new wife, Elena, smiled up at him, her fingers laced gently through his. They had only been married 6 months, a fresh start after the painful unraveling of his first marriage. Tonight was supposed to be about celebration, his tech firm's latest breakthrough in clean water access for underserved communities. Then he saw her. Across the crowded floor, beneath a sweeping arch of white roses, stood his ex-wife, Aisha. Her deep brown skin glowed under the lights, her laughter carrying faintly over the string quartet. But it wasn't her presence that stopped Marcus cold. It was the man beside her, Jae-sung Kim, the Korean billionaire whose foundation had funded half the innovations in the room. Jae-sung leaned in, kissed Aisha softly on the cheek, then pulled her into a brief, affectionate embrace that spoke of deep familiarity. Marcus froze mid-step. Elena's hand tightened in his. "Marcus, you okay?" He wasn't. Memories flooded back unbidden, the late nights when Aisha had supported him through his startup struggles, the way she had quietly sacrificed her own promotions to care for his aging mother during chemo, the final painful year when his growing success had pulled them apart. He had convinced himself their divorce was mutual, that they had simply drifted. Seeing her here, radiant and connected to one of the world's most influential men, hit harder than he expected. Before he could turn away, Aisha's eyes met his. No anger, no triumph, just a soft recognition. She whispered something to Jae-sung, who nodded with a gentle smile, and they both walked toward Marcus and Elena. "Marcus," Aisha said warmly, her voice carrying the same quiet strength he remembered. "It's good to see you. This is Elena, right? I've heard wonderful things." Elena, ever gracious, extended her hand. "A pleasure. Your work with refugee education programs has been inspiring." Jae-sung bowed slightly, his presence calm and unassuming, despite the fortune he commanded. "Marcus, your company's filtration technology saved thousands of lives in the last pilot. Aisha told me the story behind it, how you started it after her village project in Kenya." Marcus blinked, caught off guard. He hadn't realized Aisha had followed his work so closely, or shared it with someone like Jae-sung. The evening unfolded in unexpected ways. As the night progressed, Marcus watched from afar as Aisha and Jae-sung moved through the room, not as a flashy power couple, but as partners in quiet action. They spent time with a group of young African entrepreneurs, listening intently. Later, Jae-sung announced a new joint initiative, funding Aisha's vision for mobile learning centers in conflict zones, inspired by the resilience she had shown rebuilding her life after their divorce. In a quiet moment on the terrace, away from the crowd, Marcus found himself alone with Aisha, while Elena chatted with donors inside. "I never thanked you properly," Aisha said, looking out at the city lights. "Even when things fell apart between us, you taught me about showing up for people. Your kindness to my family, it stayed with me. It helped me keep going." Marcus swallowed, the weight of old regrets surfacing. "I thought I'd moved on. Seeing you tonight, with him," she smiled gently. "Jae-sung and I met through the foundation work. He's a good man, selfless in ways most don't see. He lost his sister young. Now he pours everything into lifting others. We're not what you think. We support each other's missions." A twist came when the gala's silent auction revealed something deeper. Aisha had anonymously donated a collection of her late father's priceless to her heritage, to fund emergency aid. Jae-sung matched it tenfold, not for show, but because, as he later told a small circle, kindness isn't transactional. It's what connects us when the world tries to divide. Marcus felt a profound shift in that moment. Watching Elena laugh with Aisha over shared stories of balancing career and compassion, he realized his freeze earlier wasn't jealousy. It was a mirror to his own growth. He approached Jae-sung later, offering his team's technology for the new learning centers at no cost. As the gala wound down, the four of them stood together briefly. Elena squeezed Marcus's hand, her eyes bright with understanding. Aisha gave him a nod of quiet grace. Jae-sung clapped him on the shoulder with genuine warmth. In the end, the night wasn't about who had moved on or who held power. It was about lives touched through small, steady acts, supporting an ex through grief, mentoring the next generation, bridging worlds with open hands. Marcus walked out into the cool night air feeling lighter, the city alive with possibility. Humanity, in all its beautiful complexity, had a way of reminding us that every connection, past or present, could spark something greater. The weeks after the gala blurred into a quiet rhythm of reflection for Marcus. Elena had sensed the undercurrents that night and encouraged him to reach out, not out of obligation, but because unfinished chapters deserve honest words. So on a crisp autumn afternoon in Manhattan, Marcus found himself at a small cafe near the Hudson, waiting for Aisha. She arrived wearing a simple cream sweater, her natural curls framing a face that carried both strength and serenity. No Jae-sung this time, just the two of them, bridging a past that had once felt too heavy to touch. "You looked happy that night," Marcus started, stirring his coffee unnecessarily. "Truly, I froze because I guess I still carried some guilt about how I pulled away when the company took off, about your mom's last months when I was barely there." Aisha listened without interruption, her dark eyes steady. "I was angry for a while," she admitted softly, "but holding on to it would have dimmed the work I wanted to do. You showed up for my family when it mattered most, Marcus. Even if we couldn't make us work, that kindness anchored me. It's why I recommended your tech to Jae-sung's foundation months ago, before the gala. Actually." Marcus sat back, surprised. Another layer revealed. Aisha had been quietly advocating for his projects long after their divorce, never seeking credit. Their conversation shifted when Aisha shared the latest challenge. One of the mobile learning centers in South Sudan was facing delays, supply chain issues, local infrastructure hurdles, and a sudden funding gap after a donor pulled out. Jae-sung is covering what he can, but we need reliable partners on the ground, people who understand both the tech and the communities. Before Marcus could respond, his phone buzzed. Elena had texted, "Take the afternoon if you need it. I'm proud of you for showing up." He smiled, feeling the warmth of her support. An unexpected twist came 2 days later. Marcus flew to Seoul for an emergency meeting with Jae-sung's team, Elena by his side. In the sleek glass conference room overlooking the Han River, Jae-sung greeted them personally. The billionaire wasn't the distant mogul Marcus had imagined. He rolled up his sleeves, sharing stories of his own losses and how Aisha, resilience, had inspired him to expand their joint foundation work. During a site visit to a prototype center, a heavy rainstorm hit. The team scrambled to protect equipment, but a young local engineer slipped on the muddy ground, twisting his ankle badly. Chaos threatened to stall progress. Without hesitation, Elena, trained in emergency response from her nonprofit days, took charge, stabilizing the injury while Marcus coordinated with local medics via translator. Aisha, who had joined remotely, later laughed over video call. "See? This is what happens when good people collide." Back in New York, the emotional peak arrived at a modest community event the foundation hosted for diaspora families. Marcus had committed his team's resources pro bono, but he hadn't expected the turnout. Dozens of children from immigrant backgrounds testing the new learning tablets, their faces lighting up with possibility. In one corner, he watched Jae-sung sit cross-legged on the floor, patiently teaching a group of kids basic coding in Korean and English, while Aisha translated for Somali and Swahili-speaking mothers. Elena leaned into Marcus, whispering, "You helped make this moment possible." Later that evening, as the event wound down, Aisha pulled Marcus aside near a window overlooking the bustling street. Jae-sung and we're building something real, but it's rooted in friendship and shared purpose first. Seeing you and Elena tonight reminded me that moving forward doesn't mean erasing the past. It means carrying the best parts forward. Marcus felt the last knot of tension release. He had arrived at the gala months earlier carrying old regrets. Now he left this gathering with renewed purpose, his company expanding collaborations across continents, Elena thriving in her own advocacy, and unexpected friendships forming where pain once lingered. The city lights reflected in the windows like stars, promising more connections, more quiet acts of humanity that bridge divides. Marcus squeezed Elena's hand as they stepped into the night, hearts a little fuller, worlds a little closer. Months turned into a year of quiet momentum. Marcus's team had fully integrated their clean water tech into 3 of Aisha and Jae-sung's mobile learning centers across East Africa. What began as professional support evolved into something more collaborative. Weekly video calls where engineers from New York, Seoul, and Nairobi brainstormed solutions late into the night. One evening in Nairobi, Marcus and Elena arrived for the official launch of the expanded program. The air was warm and dusty, filled with the sounds of children's laughter echoing from the newly built center. Aisha met them at the gate, her smile wide as she embraced Elena first. Jae-sung stood a few steps behind, sleeves rolled up, helping local staff unload solar panels from a truck. "You came," Aisha said simply, her hand resting briefly on Marcus's arm. There was no awkwardness now, only the ease of shared history repurposed for good. The day unfolded with energy. Elena led a workshop for the women's group on digital literacy, her patience drawing shy smiles and confident questions. Marcus worked alongside Jae-sung troubleshooting a stubborn filtration system that refused to sync with the local power grid. Sweat soaked their shirts as they crouched in the red dirt, exchanging tools and ideas in a mix of English and broken technical Korean that made the younger engineers chuckle. Then came the twist no one saw coming. A sudden flash flood warning hit the region that afternoon. Waters rose faster than forecasts predicted, threatening the center's foundation and the nearby village. Panic rippled through the staff as they rushed to secure equipment. Marcus froze for a split second, the same instinctive pause from the gala, before snapping into action. He remembered Aisha's stories of resilience from her own fieldwork years ago. "We move the generators first," he called out. Jae-sung was already organizing a human chain. Aisha coordinated with village elders, translating calmly while directing families to higher ground. Elena worked with the children, turning fear into a game of moving supplies like a relay. In the chaos, Marcus watched Jae-sung lift a heavy panel that had slipped, his face strained but determined, and Aisha steadying an elderly woman with the same gentle strength she once offered his own mother. Hours later, as the waters receded and the immediate danger passed, the group gathered under the center's awning. Mud streaked their clothes, but the learning tablets and water systems had been saved. A young girl from the village approached Aisha with a handmade bracelet, whispering thanks in Swahili. Jae-sung translated softly, his voice thick with emotion. That night, Sitting on plastic chairs under a star-filled sky, Marcus turned to Aisha. I used to think success was about what I built alone. Tonight, it's clear it was never just me. She nodded, looking across at Elena and Jae-sung deep in conversation about future expansions. We all carry pieces of each other's stories. The gala was just the moment the pieces started fitting differently. Elena reached for Marcus's hand in the dark, squeezing it once. The air felt lighter despite the exhaustion, filled with the low hum of generators and distant laughter as the community settled back in. Work would continue tomorrow. More centers, more challenges, more unexpected alliances forming across oceans and old heartbreaks. For now they sat together, 4 lives intertwined in ways none could have predicted that night in New York. The collaboration deepened in ways Marcus never anticipated. A year and a half after that charged gala night, the 4 of them stood together in a bustling innovation hub in Kigali, Rwanda. The newest mobile learning and water center was set to open its doors to over 200 children and families. Sunlight poured through solar-powered skylights as local teachers arranged tablets and gave learning kits. Marcus watched Elena move comfortably among the crowd, her laughter mixing with the women she had mentored over video calls for months. Jae-sung, ever the quiet force, was testing a new filtration prototype with a group of Rwandan engineers. Aisha coordinated with community leaders, her presence steady and respected, the same quiet strength that once held Marcus's world together, now lifting entire villages. A surprise guest arrived mid-morning, a delegation from Marcus's old firm, including several early employees who had known Aisha during the difficult divorce years. One of them, an older technician named David, pulled Marcus aside. "Never thought I'd see the 4 of you in the same room again, let alone building something like this." Before Marcus could reply, an unexpected crisis unfolded. A critical shipment of replacement solar batteries had been delayed by customs issues, threatening to leave the center without reliable power for the first month. Frustration rippled through the team. Jae-sung immediately began calling contacts in Seoul, while Aisha reached out to local partners. Marcus stepped in, using his network from the clean tech world to reroute supplies from a nearby project in Uganda. Hours of tense coordination followed. In the heat of the afternoon, as everyone worked side by side, Elena noticed Aisha quietly stepping away to speak with a young mother whose child had fallen ill. Without hesitation, Elena joined her, translating medical instructions and offering reassurance drawn from her own experiences. Marcus and Jae-sung, covered in dust from helping unload what supplies had already arrived, paused to watch the moment. That evening, under strings of lights at the modest opening celebration, the emotional weight peaked. A group of children performed a song they had learned on the new tablets, their voices filling the hall. One little girl, no older than 8, walked up to Aisha and handed her a drawing. 4 figures standing together, 2 men, 2 women, holding hands around a glowing well and schoolhouse. Aisha's eyes glistened as she accepted it. She glanced toward Marcus, then Elena and Jae-sung. "This wasn't supposed to happen," she said softly to the small circle later. "None of us planned this path, but here we are." Jae-sung placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, his usual calm laced with visible warmth. Marcus felt the old freeze from the gala return briefly, not from shock this time, but from a deep sense of gratitude. Elena leaned into him, her fingers intertwined with his, grounding him in the present. The night continued, with stories shared over shared plates of local food, tales of late-night problem-solving sessions, crossed time zones, and small victories that had compounded into something lasting. Old wounds had not vanished, but they had been transformed into bridges. As music played and the community danced under the Rwandan stars, Marcus realized how far they had all come. The connections born from pain and kindness now powered real change for families who would never know the full story behind it. 2 years after that unforgettable gala night, the joint initiative had grown beyond anyone's early expectations. The team gathered in Addis Ababa for the regional summit, where leaders from across East Africa came to see the network of mobile centers now serving thousands. Marcus stood on the edge of the bustling conference hall, watching Elena present data on the integrated water and learning systems they had refined together. Her confidence shone, the result of countless hours supporting the project from New York. Aisha moved through the crowd with quiet authority, introducing village representatives to donors. Jae Sung, never one for spotlights, worked behind the scenes, ensuring every technical detail ran smoothly. The four of them had settled into a rhythm of mutual respect that felt both surprising and natural. During a break, Marcus found himself walking the sunlit courtyard with Aisha. "Remember when I thought this was just about proving I'd moved on?" he said with a half smile. "Now it feels like we're all building something none of us could have alone." She nodded, her expression warm. Jae Sung says the same. "Your tech adaptations saved us during the last rainy season. And Elena, she's become a real sister in this work." An unexpected twist arrived via urgent news from the field. One of the remote centers in a drought-affected area reported a critical failure in the main filtration unit after a sandstorm. Supplies were low, and the nearest replacement parts were days away. The summit paused as the group shifted into problem-solving mode. Jae Sung coordinated air transport from Seoul, while Marcus rerouted a spare unit from a Kenyan site. Aisha and Elena worked the phones with local women's cooperatives to distribute emergency water reserves. The emotional climax came late that night in the temporary command center. Exhausted but focused, the four of them huddled around a laptop as live footage came in from the village. A community elder appeared on screen, holding up a container of clean water drawn from the repaired system. Behind him, children waved at the camera, their faces tired but hopeful. One small boy, who had walked miles for water before the center arrived, simply said, "Thank you for not forgetting us." Elena's hand found Marcus's under the table. Aisha leaned against Jae Sung, who offered a rare, tired smile. In that shared silence, the weight of old histories felt lighter, replaced by the tangible difference their combined efforts had made in real lives. As the summit resumed the next day, new partnerships formed and fresh challenges loomed on the horizon. Marcus glanced at the three people who had once seemed worlds apart from his future, now integral to it. The work continued, carrying them forward together. He brought his new wife to the gala, then froze as a Korean billionaire kissed his black ex. Part 6. 3 years on from the gala, the initiative had blossomed into a full-fledged regional network spanning 6 countries. The four of them reunited in Accra, Ghana, for the inauguration of a flagship center designed as a training hub for local innovators. The coastal breeze carried the scent of the Atlantic as dignitaries and community members filled the open-air pavilion. Marcus stood beside Elena, watching her speak to a group of young Ghanaian women about leadership in tech for good. Her voice carried the steady assurance she had honed through years of this shared journey. Nearby, Jae Sung demonstrated a new low-cost maintenance protocol to a cluster of eager engineers, his quiet expertise earning nods of respect. Aisha moved between conversations like a bridge, connecting stories from the field with practical next steps. During a midday tour, an unexpected twist emerged. A heavy equipment failure occurred in the main solar array just as the ceremony was about to call. Likely sabotage by a local contractor unhappy with the project's transparency requirements. Tension spiked. Organizers whispered about postponing, but Aisha refused. We've faced worse. Let's show them what real partnership looks like. Marcus and Jae-sung dove in immediately, sleeves rolled up, working shoulder to shoulder in the Ghanaian sun. Elena coordinated with the audience, turning the delay into an impromptu interactive session on resilience and community problem solving. Aisha translated and rallied local youth to assist, her calm presence keeping spirits high. As sweat dripped and tools passed between hands, Marcus caught a moment that hit him deeply. Jae-sung paused, wiping his brow, and said simply, "Your ex-wife taught me that showing up matters more than perfection. Today proves it again." The words landed with unexpected weight, reminding Marcus how far forgiveness and purpose had carried them all. By late afternoon, the array was repaired through collective effort. The ceremony proceeded as golden light bathed the center. Children from surrounding villages tested the new learning stations, their excitement palpable. In a quiet corner afterward, the four of them gathered briefly. A group of mothers presented handmade gifts, woven baskets filled with local produce, as a thanks for the clean water that had eased their daily burdens. Elena rested her head lightly against Marcus's shoulder. Aisha smiled at them both, her hand linked with Jae-sung's. No grand speeches were needed. The day's challenges had forged another layer of connection, turning potential setback into proof of what sustained kindness could achieve across backgrounds, borders, and old heartaches. The work stretched ahead, more centers, more lives touched. But in that Ghanaian evening, with music rising and the sea murmuring nearby, the bonds felt stronger than ever. He brought his new wife to the gala, then froze as a Korean billionaire kissed his black ex. Part 7. 4 years after the gala that once stopped Marcus in his tracks, the team converged in Dakar, Senegal, for the launch of a coastal innovation hub. The Atlantic waves crashed nearby as the center opened its doors, training young engineers from across West Africa in sustainable water and education technologies. The air buzzed with possibility. Marcus walked the grounds with Elena, her arm linked through his. She had taken on a larger role coordinating women-led projects, her warmth drawing in participants who saw her as one of their own. Jae-sung oversaw the technical installations with his usual precision, while Aisha facilitated sessions with community elders, weaving local knowledge into the modern systems. A quiet moment between panels brought Marcus and Aisha together near the shoreline. "It's surreal," he admitted. Seeing what grew from that awkward night, Aisha smiled, the sea breeze lifting her curls. "We chose paths that let the good parts travel with us." The unexpected twist struck during the final preparations. A powerful offshore storm surged earlier than predicted, flooding parts of the low-lying site and damaging key electrical conduits. Water seeped into the main server room, threatening weeks of lost progress. Organizers scrambled, but the four of them moved as one. Jae-sung and Marcus waded through rising water, salvaging hardware while directing emergency sandbag lines. Elena and Aisha worked with local volunteers, evacuating sensitive equipment and reassuring frightened trainees. In the pouring rain, Elena steadied a young Senegalese woman who had frozen in panic, sharing a quick story of her own past uncertainties that helped the girl push forward. Aisha translated fluidly between French, Wolof, and English, keeping the human chain connected. Hours later, as the storm eased, they assessed the damage under generator lights. The core systems had been protected through frantic, coordinated effort. A group of trainees returned with hot tea and blankets, their gratitude evident in quiet thanks and shared silence. That night, gathered on a covered terrace overlooking the recovering site, the emotional peak settled over them. A village leader brought forward a small child who had benefited from an earlier center. The boy presented each of them with a shell necklace, symbols of resilience from the sea. Jae-sung accepted his with a deep bow, his usual composure softening as he glanced at Aisha. Marcus felt the familiar old frieze melt completely into something warmer. Elena's hand rested on his back, steady as always. Looking at the three people beside him, once strangers in his future, now essential partners, he saw how their intertwined lives had created something enduring. The Dakar lights shimmered on the water as recovery work continued into the night, new alliances forming and the network expanding once more. 5 years after that pivotal gala night in New York, the four of them stood on the sun-baked plains outside Arusha, Tanzania, for the groundbreaking of a flagship training academy. Mount Kilimanjaro loomed in the distance, its peak a silent witness to the journey that had brought them here. The academy would prepare hundreds of young African innovators each year in clean technology and community leadership. Marcus watched Elena direct a group of local coordinators with easy confidence, her once new role now central to the project's heart. Jae-sung knelt beside a group of Maasai engineers, reviewing soil samples for the foundation. Aisha moved among the elders, listening intently to their stories of the land before, translating visions for sustainable integration. During a quiet afternoon walk along a dry riverbed, Marcus found himself beside Jae-sung. "I froze that night because I thought I'd lost something forever," Marcus said. "Instead, we gained all this." Jae-sung nodded, his gaze steady. "Aisha showed me that the best connections grow from respect, not possession. You and Elena brought the missing pieces." The unexpected twist hit without warning. A massive dust storm rolled in from the plains earlier than any forecast, whipping sand across the site and damaging the temporary medical tent set up for the community health fair. Reports came in quickly. Several children and elders were caught in the worsening conditions, with visibility near zero and rising respiratory distress. Chaos threatened to unravel the day, but the four moved as one fluid team. Aisha immediately organized evacuation to the sturdier supply trucks, her voice calm and authoritative in Swahili and English. Elena, drawing on her growing expertise, triaged the affected quickly, using limited supplies to ease breathing for the most vulnerable. Marcus and Jae-sung fought through the blinding sand to secure the main generators and protect the prototype solar arrays that had just been delivered. In the heart of the storm, Marcus saw Jae-sung shielding a young boy who had wandered from his family, carrying him to safety, while Aisha guided the mother through the haze. Elena stayed with an elderly woman, holding her hand and speaking softly until the worst passed. Their combined efforts turned potential tragedy into a testament of preparedness and care. As the winds finally died down, the group gathered in the main tent. A mother approached Aisha with tears, embracing her tightly. The little boy Jae-sung had carried presented each of them with a small carved wooden figure, symbols of protection from his community. In the fading light, the emotional climax settled deeply. Marcus felt the last remnants of old regret dissolve completely as he looked at the three people beside him, their faces streaked with dust but lit with quiet triumph. Elena slipped her hand into his. Aisha leaned her head briefly against Jae-sung's shoulder. No one needed grand words. The academy would rise stronger because of what they had just overcome together. Old pains transformed into unbreakable alliance. Work would resume at dawn, with new trainees arriving and the network reaching even further. For now, under the vast Tanzanian sky, their shared humanity felt like the sturdiest foundation of all. 6 years after that night at the New York Gala, the four of them returned to the same glittering ballroom for the Global Impact Gala once more. This time, they walked in together, not as awkward exes and new partners, but as a trusted circle that had changed lives across continents. The Grand Hall looked exactly as Marcus remembered, but everything else had transformed. The network they had built now reached over 50 centers, bringing clean water and digital learning to hundreds of thousands. Marcus and Elena arrived arm in arm, their bond deeper from years of shared purpose. Aisha and Jae-sung followed, their quiet partnership radiating calm strength. Marcus no longer froze when he saw them. Instead, he smiled. During the evening, a short documentary played highlighting the journey, footage from Nairobi rains, Ghana repairs, Tanzanian storms, and the quiet moments in between. When it ended, the audience rose in applause. A young woman from one of the first centers stood up and spoke. These 4 people showed us that old pain can become new hope. Later on the same terrace where Marcus and Aisha had once talked years ago, the 4 of them gathered again. The city lights sparkled below. Elena leaned against Marcus. Aisha rested her head lightly on Jae-sung's shoulder. No one spoke much. They didn't need to. Marcus looked at the 3 people who had once represented complication, regret, and surprise. Now they simply felt like family forged in kindness and hard work. The night ended with laughter and plans for the next project. As they stepped out into the cool air, Marcus squeezed Elena's hand. Aisha caught his eye and gave a small, knowing nod. Jae-sung clapped him on the back with the easy warmth of true friendship. What began with a frozen moment at a gala had grown into something far bigger. Lives connected, wounds healed, and a better world built one act of decency at a time. And they kept moving forward, together. Historica YouTube thumbnail Billionaire. Wow! Thanks so much for watching till the end. If you enjoyed this fun video, please give it a big thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss new videos. Sleep early, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one. Good night. Sweet dreams.